Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. In today's video, I am going to put together a spread using the Paper Person Good Morning Kit. Now yesterday I did post up my project planning video, which will show you all of the different projects that I am going to put together with this kit. Today I decided to go with the 12 by 12 spread because one, I think it's going to be really fun and really different to put together, and two, we've already done a 6 by 8 spread this month and a mini album, so I thought it would be fun to do something in a really big scale as well. So what I've got in front of me today, first of all, here's the sketch. So we're going to do a 12 by 12. I'm going to have a large portion of it covered with a photo, which is right here. Then I've got 3 cards that I'm going to line up on the side, put a little bit of blue in the middle, and then I'm thinking about fussy cutting out some florals to put down at the bottom, and creating an interactive piece to this spread. So really quick, let me explain what the interactive portion is going to be, and then I'm going to take you over to the computer to show you how I created these pieces in case you would like to do something similar with your kit. So let me just set some of these things to the side. So what I'm planning to do is to take my photo and create a cut right at the top of this basket. So I took a picture of myself with an empty basket in my hands. Then what I did is I took photos of each of my bathroom supplies, since that's what this spread is all about, is my bathroom brands. And I edited them in Photoshop, which I'll show you how I did that, to create a white background where what I'm going to do is cut them out and then they will slide into the basket slits. So all of the different pieces will be able to be pulled out, where you can examine the name and the brand and the scents and all of that kind of stuff. And then if I want, it also provides me the back of it for additional journaling. I haven't decided if I want to actually write anything extra on the back of them, or if I just want to do pattern paper, or if I want to do pattern paper with writing on it. I haven't quite decided. I did go ahead and pull out some pattern papers though that I could back it with, that all are fairly neutral. So they do provide the opportunity to journal if that's what I decide to do. But either way, I wanted them to be finished on the back side as well. So let's go ahead and head over to my computer so I can show you how I created each of these pieces and how I also made sure that the pieces were fairly to scale with what is inside, you know, with the size of this basket, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's go over to the computer. I'll show you that, and then we'll come back over here and I will speed you guys up as I put this spread together.
All right, friends. So one of the things I wanted to do before we actually get into the assembly of this spread is to show you how I created all of the portions that are going to pull out of the basket in order to give a little bit more detail on my bathroom supplies. And then also could potentially, you know, we'll see as we're putting this together, but could potentially serve as a home for more storytelling. So what I did first in order to create this spread is I first took a picture of me with an empty basket. So I can open that up and show you that here. So the picture I am using, I'll open these both so you can see how it turned out. So this was the original picture that I took, and I went ahead and I lightened it up considerably. So I used the brightness and contrast in order to get it brightened up. And then I also used my dodge tool, which I'll show you here in a little bit, in order to brighten up some of the portions that have some shadowing on them. So my photo turns out like this. Now, once I had my photo like this, what I wanted to do was to create a second portion that's going to act as though I have cut a slit at the top, because that's what I'm going to do in order to slide my things in. But you can't necessarily cut a portion of this photo in Photoshop. So to mimic that, what I did is I grabbed my marquee tool, and I'm going to draw a line right at the top of the basket down to the bottom, and then I will right click and layer via, oops, I didn't mean to cut. Well, I guess cut is fine too. So now this is 2 separate pieces. So we have the bottom piece and we have the top piece. So there's essentially a cut through the middle of the page. So this is going to allow me to mimic what it's going to look like when I add the things into the basket. And that is ultimately also going to help me figure out the correct scale for those products. Next, what I did is I took a picture of each of the items that I'm adding into this basket on a white background. So here's an example. This is my conditioner bottle. So I have a white foam core board and I just stuck it on my craft table, turned on my studio lights, and snapped a picture. If you don't have studio lights, you can also take a white foam core board or some kind of white background and put it nearby a window and take a picture of it top down from there as well. Lighting from windows is typically really nice lighting. I just work in the basement and a lot of times I craft at night, so I have to use my studio lighting in order to help me get things lit up. So from here, what I need to do is again go ahead and adjust all of the colors. So I'm going to click on this little sun icon, and that's going to allow me to increase my brightness, which I'm going to make sure to pay attention to the bottle more so than the background, because I want this to, I want the bottle to be at the brightest part, right? But I don't want it to be too washed out. So then I'm also going to increase my contrast, and then I will merge those layers together. Next, what I'm going to do is adjust my white balance. So that means that I am going to use a tool that allows me to select an area of my photo and turn that portion true white. So for me, I open up a camera raw filter, which for me is Control-Shift-A. I believe you can also get to it from the filter section. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So filter, camera raw filter right here. So we're going to open up camera raw filter. And this is going to give me some advanced editing options. So the biggest one that I want is under this basic tab. It's the white balance tool, which looks like an eyedropper. So I'm going to click on that and then select an area of my photo where it is true white. Now I know that that made an adjustment because if you look at the temperature and the tint, it has adjusted those so that that spot that I chose is now true white. And then I'm also going to slightly increase my clarity and my dehaze and my saturation. All of these edits I will give you guys a little bit more insight into in a couple weeks. Well, actually next week. So next Monday, I am planning to do a video showing you how I take and edit my flat lay photos. And we'll go a little bit more in depth into all of these edits because it's essentially the same thing as what I do. Okay, so now we have our background is true white, which then adjusts all the other colors on the page as well. Next, what I need to do is come over to the left-hand side and I'm going to grab my dodge tool. The dodge tool looks a little bit like a lollipop. If you cannot see this dodge tool, it is, there's the paint bucket, then there's the smudge tool, and then the dodge tool menu. So it could potentially be on the burn tool or the sponge tool. So you just click and hold until the menu pops up and then select dodge tool. For me, I have my exposure set to 70%, which means it's going to have some significant brightening when I use the tool. And then I'm also using a mid-tone. So, and I should say also that my brush is 700 pixels. My hardness is 0, which just means there's not going to be super sharp lines. Okay, so from here, I want to click and brighten up some of these shadowy areas. Again, I don't want to do too much to the bottle itself, so I'm trying to keep a little bit of distance from it so that we don't wash it out and make the lines hard to see. But you can see how it is changing the background to white. So the more you click and drag, it's adding stroke over top of stroke until you're getting a brightened background. So I'm going to do that. Now, I don't need to be too precise about it because ultimately I'm going to cut this out. I just want to see this in the brightest sense that I can. Okay, that looks pretty good. So then what we're going to do is grab the crop tool over here. I have my crop tool set to width, height, resolution, and I have everything not filled in. So nothing in the fields, because I just want to be able to reduce from the edges. And then, so we're going to just get this down to a skinny little bottle. And then we will hit that enter button to go ahead and crop it. So now we've got this bottle how I want it, and this is essentially how I'm going to print it. But before we do that, I also need to adjust the scale of the photo compared to my photo of me in the basket. So I'm going to select all of it and copy the image. Then let's go back to my actual photo, and I'm going to click on the background so that when I paste it, it goes in between the background and layer 1. So we'll paste it in here. Actually, let's put it on top. So just so we can see. And you can see that this is a huge bottle. It's pretty out of scale. So I will click on the bottle and click on Control T or Command T. And that is going to allow me to change the size. So I'm just going to shrink it down until I feel like it's the right size. Actually, I feel like that's pretty good. I'll hit enter and it's going to come into focus. And now I can put this behind my basket, and that's essentially what it's going to look like when I stick it in later. So I did this for all of the products that I'm putting in my basket. So I have shampoo, conditioner, hairspray, some perfume, some body wash, deodorant, toothpaste, and face wash. So you can see all the photos there, and then when I got them edited, I can open them and then you can see them in this sense too. So there's those 3. So I'm going to cut them out so you won't necessarily see the backgrounds, but I did want to make sure, that the color of the actual object was light and bright and true to color. So there's those 3, and then there's those 2. And then once they're all in here, you can see that this is kind of what it's going to look like when they are all in that basket. They just won't have the sharp edges. They'll be cut out to the shape and the size of the object itself. And I'm thinking I'll just back them with some kind of pattern paper and potentially use that space for some additional journaling, or just leave it as pattern paper. I'm not exactly sure yet. We will see how I feel when we get over to the table. But that is the digital portion here. Next, what we're going to do is head back over to the craft table and actually get this spread assembled. Now that we're back over at my table, the first thing I'm going to do with this spread is to work on the background or the main portion of this page. So I'm using a piece of plain white, actually it's not plain, it's textured white cardstock in a 12 by 12 size. And then I also have some of the blue textured cardstock that was in the add-on pack from Paper Person that I'm also going to use as a little bit of a bridge in between my photo and the background white of the paper. So I grabbed some score tape, I added it right along one of the edges of the blue paper there, and then I'm going to stick down my photo so that a piece of that blue comes out on the left side of the photo. Now, when I do this originally, you'll see that I'm going to pull over my white 12 by 12 cardstock, and I will layer up the cards that I'm going to put down the left-hand side and decide that the amount of blue was a little bit too much. So what I probably could have done that would have been easier would have been to just grab my trimmer and cut off a small portion of the blue. Instead, I just wasn't thinking that way. So instead, I took apart the strip from my photo and then re-adhered it down a little bit closer. And honestly, that worked just as well. So no big deal. But it probably would have been easier to just trim it off. Whatever. So once I have all of those pieces together the way I want them to be, I did trim a little bit off of the bottom of the photo just to keep everything even. And then I will clean up my journaling cards here so I can see what they're going to look like when I put them down the side of
of that page. So the journaling card that says bathroom brands is the spark for this whole story. I did add my text onto the journaling card through my computer. So if you don't know how to do that, I do have a tutorial on YouTube that shows you how you can do that both with Photoshop or with Microsoft Word, just in case, you don't know how to do that. So I've got the card that says good morning to you. I've got the bathroom basics card, or bathroom brands is what I should say, card. And then I also have this blue on blue diagonal stripe, which I want to put in the middle and then include one of the chipboard pieces on top of it. So I trimmed that down slightly because, if I were to put all three of those cards in their original sizing down the side, there would be no white space in between them. So I just wanted to trim a little bit off of the blue so that I could have white space in between each of the cards. Once I had that done, I set it to the side. The next thing I wanted to do was go ahead and cut the slit at the top of the basket. For this, I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers craft knife. And I'm just carefully cutting along the top of the basket, going almost all the way to the handles of them. So even cutting through the portion where my hand is at, because if I were to take a picture of a bunch of things in a basket and I'm holding it by the handles, you would probably not see all of my hand. So I want this to look as realistic as possible. So that's why I did it that way. Once I had the slit cut in the photo, I turned it over on the back side and went ahead and added my adhesive around the perimeter of the whole photo. And then I'm also going to add some adhesive at the top of the slit. That way, when this is on the page, the top portion won't be able to be opened, only the bottom portion, and therefore it will act like a pocket. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but I printed that photo at, I believe, 8 inches by 12 inches. I think when I pull it back over here, we'll be able to see that for sure. Actually, you know what? It is 8 inches by 12 inches because there's enough room for the 3x4 cards, plus a little bit of blue, plus the white space. So that's definitely a 4-inch space. So just in case you're wondering, it was a 8-inch by 12-inch photo. So then I pulled over all of those pieces that we printed of all the bathroom stuff and went ahead and trimmed them out from the white backgrounds. So you can see them here as they are cut out. I did print all of these portions on matte photo paper because I wanted the saturation to be super nice. But since I'm going to be handling them, I didn't want to use glossy photo paper that would leave a lot of photo prints on the photo itself as you are handling it. So instead, I chose to print that on matte photo paper. So I am going to layer everything inside of the basket, and you can start to see how this is going to look here, which is so exciting and so cool. Once I have everything in the way I like it, I used the background to help me flip it over and keep everything where it's at. So I could add a little bit of adhesive below the cluster of objects and on the sides of the clusters of objects. That way, when I put things into this pocket later, it won't fall down too far where I won't be able to grab them from behind the photo itself. So now that I have all of my adhesive on the back of this photo, I'm going to go ahead and take off the backing, the paper backing on the double-sided adhesive, and then we will add this onto the white cardstock. Not until later do I realize that I actually added all of my photos and everything to the smooth side of the textured cardstock because I really wanted it to be the textured side. But by the time I figure that out, it's way too late. So I just leave it as is, and it's not a big deal because you can't even see hardly any of the white anyways. It's just a little bit of a border around these 3 journaling cards. So now that we have that all in place, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add all 3 of these cards onto the spread. So I'm going to position them just so I can make sure that the distance in between them all is something I am comfortable with. Then I will remove the backing from these cards and add them onto the spread as well. I really love the colors in this month's kit. And these 3 right here, at least the blue and the green, were kind of soothing to me, where it felt to me like they could go very well with a spread about bathroom supplies. So I don't know why else I picked them other than that. So I am going to stick down the card there in the middle, which I ultimately trimmed to 3 inches by 3¼ inches. And then I have this chipboard piece from the set that has a shower head with water coming out. And I thought that that was perfect for adding into the middle card there, just to further represent that this spread is all about bathroom stuff. The next thing I did was go through my stash of cardstock and figure out what I wanted to back all of these different pieces with. So I have, some blues, some yellows, and then I also am going to use some of the cardstock that came in the kit itself, just to try and use some of that up. And plus, since this is on the back, it doesn't have to be too matchy-matchy. I just wanted it to have some of the tones that were similar with the cards that I have for this kit. So what I'm doing is adding a little bit of adhesive onto the back side of the photo there, and then using my cutter bee scissors to trim around the outside of the image itself. So that's the first one you can see. I flipped over the pattern there because, you can use both sides of the pattern. So I liked both the yellow and I liked... Actually, I don't remember if it's yellow on the backside of this now that I'm thinking about it. No, it was blue. It was like blue raindrops, it seemed appropriate again for a bathroom spread. So you can use whatever colors you want to help back your stuff. And then I used my precision scissors just so I could get as close to the images as possible so you don't see a lot of the pattern poking out from around the other side. Now they are all backed. I do end up taking them all to the side and adding a little bit of journaling with a slick writer pen just because it's a little bit darker and easier to read against the pattern papers. And I added some text about why I use the products that I use, which was actually a really fun thing to write about. Like, why do you use the specific shampoo that you have? And why do you use the specific toothpaste that you have? It brought me a little bit of joy to write about those things because they're just so mundane that we don't often think about, like, maybe there's a story behind this. So now that I have the basket pretty well done and the base of this spread done, the last thing I wanted to do was embellish the bottom side of the basket. I love this paper that came in the kit this month. It's from the Pink Fresh Studio, I think it's Some Days collection, and it came with the Paper Person collection, but you can also get this paper separately as well. I love the florals. I love the scale of the florals. I love the colors of the florals. I'm just kind of obsessed with this paper. So what I decided to do was to take the paper and fussy cut out a bunch of the floral elements to use at the bottom of the basket. So I'm showing you here how I chose which flowers I wanted to use, and then I'm using my cutter bee scissors to go ahead and cut those out of the background. Now, I eventually started layering them up on the spread just so I could see at what point I had enough flowers and if I wanted to pull in any of the different ones from the collection. So it just helped me to figure out placement and figure out what I needed as I was working on it. So you can see that I've got that larger element there right now to the left side. Ultimately, I'm going to pull that into the middle and use it there instead, and then build the rest of the background from the middle to the edges. I wanted to cover up pretty much the bottom of that entire basket and just make it super florally down there. It just, for whatever reason, it made sense in my head that there would be a bunch of flowers at the bottom of the basket. Plus, it just gives it a little bit of grounding there at the bottom, I think. So I like the way that that looks. The two clusters there that have a sort of arch to them, those were perfect for adding on the two sides of this cluster. And then from there, I just added in a couple of the larger pieces, and then I'll also stick in a couple of the smaller pieces as well. There right now are two of those light pink flowers, and ultimately I will take one out just because I feel like it's too much. I wanted this to be an explosion of flowers, but I also didn't want it to be too overwhelming to the eye. And so right now, as it is right here that you can see, to me, it feels overwhelming to the eye. So what I end up doing is taking that chipboard piece that says "have a nice day" with like a smiley face and moving it on top of the orange flower there at the bottom. So it makes it almost like a giant center to the flower. And I think that that made a big difference in and of itself. Like it feels more purposeful when it's in the middle of the flower. And then I'll also rearrange a few of these pieces so that there is a thinner bit of flowers in the middle of the cluster, and then it gets a little bit thicker as you move to the edges. And to me, that made a lot more sense. It made it feel like it was more intentional and less like I was just throwing a bunch of flowers on this page without any, thought pattern as to where they're all going. So here's where you can start to see how this cluster is going to come together. Once I have it where I like it, I'm going to go ahead and take the chipboard piece and stick it down permanently on top of that orangish color flower. I wish there was maybe like one or two more of those really, it's a coral, but it's a much more orange coral color. I really, really like the color of that. And I wish that there were some more in the collection or in the paper with that same color to them. But I think that is ultimately what made me put this in the middle down at the bottom, is because there were no other florals the same color. So it made sense to have that as a focal point with the balance of colors on the sides of it. So I stuck down the chipboard, and then next what I'm doing is just adding a little bit of adhesive to the edges where these florals overlap each other so that I can eventually build this cluster without having to remove the entire thing off and then replace the whole thing. I had it exactly how I wanted it. So I didn't want to risk not being able to figure out where everything went again. So that worked fine for me. And then once it was all in one big cluster, I could take the whole thing and add adhesive to the back of the entire thing, which also helped to keep everything nice and secure to each other. And then once I have it all covered with adhesive, we'll put it back on the photo itself, position it where I want it to go, and then stick it down permanently in its home. I absolutely love the way that cluster turns out. I think it just is so nice, and helps to ground the whole photo itself. There's a little bit off the edges that I will trim off here, and then once I do that, this spread will be totally done. All right, friends, so that completes my spread for today. I could not be happier with this spread. Like, this might be my most favorite 12 by 12 spread I've maybe ever made. And it's literally about bathroom supplies, which is hilarious to me. So just as a final recap on how this works, we've got the journaling down the side here. We've got the photo with all the stuff in it. And then all of the stuff pulls out. And I did go ahead and add some journaling to the back of all of the pieces. So there is more information about why I specifically use the different supplies in the bathroom. Like, for instance, I have a bottle of hairspray because I like to curl my hair. And so I talked about that. And perfume that I barely ever wear. So it's pretty full. Body wash that I let my husband pick out because I'm not picky about it. And then my shampoo and my conditioner that are the expensive kind because I splurge on that. So it's just, and then there's the photo it is with the empty basket where you can't hardly even tell that there's a slit in it. It just looks like a photo of me holding a basket. So I love this page. I love this page. I love this page. So, to put everything back in, I just kind of pull up a little bit on the front of the pocket there. Everything slides right back in. I love that when everything is in here, it's hard to even tell that it comes out. Like, it looks like it was a picture taken with all of these things in there. And it's just, I don't know. You guys, I know it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever made, but I also love it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. And it also makes me really happy. So that is that. And maybe it's a fun story to tell, right? Like, what bathroom supplies are you using and why are you using them? Because maybe that tells a little bit about us as people and what we like and who we are. Who knows? Or maybe You know, that's just thinking a little bit too hard about it all. All right, so there we go. So there is my basket full of things, and I love it. All right, I hope that you guys have enjoyed seeing this one come together. And if you have made it this far, in the comments down below, tell me what is your absolute favorite bathroom product to use and why. And maybe that's a story for you to tell, but at least you can tell that story to me in the comment section. All right, you guys, this is going to be it for this week. So I still have some more stories to tell with this kit that I will eventually get to here. And, you know, we'll see those as I get them completed. Next week, there will be no new project planning or process videos for a particular kit. There will be a Project Life spread on Tuesday. And then I'm also going to be filming a tutorial type of video from Monday about how I take pictures of my flat lays and then how I edit them in Photoshop in order to post them in all of the social media places. So that will be coming for you guys on Monday next week, and then Monday. Tuesday will be the Project Life spread, and then we'll be back to a new month the week after that. So I hope you guys look forward to that. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye, friends.